Good evening, friends. Good evening. After a very nice speech of Mr. Trehan, well, I am on the pitch. A very good background, globally, nationally, and locally too. As I was told, that the group here is mainly small and medium entrepreneurs. And hence, some topic I should select which will be directly useful to them in running their day-to-day business. So after discussion, I have selected a topic of leverage. And for engineers, I think I need not explain the meaning of the term leverage. But that leverage is now used in finances also for years together. In any organization, we need some resources and we need funds. These are the two things which we need. Many times, at least initially when we start the business, we are confused with this concept that if we have funds, well, that is enough. We need resources and we also need funds. These resources or funds may be either hired, that is borrowed, or may be owned. It's not only with resources but also with funds. I may have my own factory building, may have my own vehicles, my own plant and machinery, or I may borrow that. I may take it on hire, lease. So when I take it on lease, it becomes borrowed. And when I own it, well, what effect will it have on leverage? Owning a particular resource and borrowing a particular resource. I may borrow, I may hire, or I may own. I need some funds. Well, the volume may change, but I need funds to finance this. And these funds may also be raised either by owning the funds or borrowing the funds. So every entrepreneur, and particularly as Mr. Trehan has rightly said, don't think yourself as small units. We can take more risk, and leveraging is taking risk, nothing else. More the risk that you take, there are more chances of getting multiple effect in earnings. We will have to find out that level up to which we can take the risk. So let us first try to understand what risk is involved in that and what is the ability of these borrowed funds and resources to multiply the returns. Ultimately, we have two objectives in mind when we do the business broadly. Number one is earning profit. And number two is increasing the net worth. Merely earning profit is not enough unless we are able to increase our net worth. And for both of them, well, you can make use of this leverage concept. Like for example, in your costing, you have two types of costs. One is called as the fixed cost, while the other is called as variable cost. And it becomes very difficult to classify them in these two groups. Hence, there is one third group which is called as semi-fixed or semi-variable. Some cost can be exclusively named as fixed cost. Maybe rent, for example, is a fixed cost and fixed cost only. But some cost, like for example, telephone bill, or even for that matter, your wages, when you pay overtime, which is based on your number of hours or number of units produced, whatever. A part of that becomes fixed, a part becomes variable. I call this as semi-variable cost. Ultimately, that semi-variable cost is also required to be divided into these two groups, either fixed or variable. So ultimately, we have fixed cost and variable cost. This portion of the total cost, which we call as fixed, works as leverage, because that remains constant irrespective of your volume of activity. Whereas a variable cost is one which changes according to the volume. If your volume goes up, this cost will also go up. So it changes in the same ratio as well as it changes in the same direction. That is called as a variable cost. As against this, the fixed cost is one which remains constant irrespective of your fixed cost. Of course, this is a theoretical discussion. In practice, what we find is fixed cost also changes, but it changes after a particular level. So it remains constant up to a level, changes according to the volume of production, volume of activity, again remains constant for a particular level, again changes. So this is the feature of fixed cost and variable cost. How this fixed and variable cost is linked with owned and borrowed resources. Whenever you have fixed cost more, be sure that you have borrowed resources more. If you own the resources, your fixed cost will be less as compared to those who borrow the resources. If I own my plant and machinery, needless to say, my fixed cost will be less as compared to one who is hiring the plant and machinery. In short, when I own the resources, my fixed cost is less. When I borrow the resources, my fixed cost is generally more. Now here is the question, here is the choice. Should I own or should I borrow? Because the ultimate result is, if I borrow more, my fixed cost is going to be more. And as I am told, you all know about break-even point. That has been told by Aditya also and by your sir also. That you know something about break-even point. It's a point which evenly breaks your revenue and cost. So wherever your revenue is equal to your cost, that's a break-even point. And this cost, as we have seen, is fixed plus variable. Fixed portion is constant, variable portion is changing. We have to reach the break-even point first. So the first step of being a successful entrepreneur is to reach that break-even point as early as possible, at as low level of activity as possible, recovering the total cost. So far as variable cost is concerned, well, unless you recover the variable cost, well, you cannot sell the product generally. So your pricing is such that it recovers variable cost first. The cost which is yet to be recovered is fixed cost. And this surplus, I may call it as a difference between selling price and the variable cost. Difference in these two gives us some margin, which is predictable. You see, profit is not predictable. Profit will change according to the volume, for the simple reason that fixed cost is same. I repeat once again, the feature of variable cost is it changes according to the level of activity. If your level is more, variable cost in total will be more. But per unit variable cost is going to remain constant. Let us try to understand this concept first. Though the name is variable, per unit it is constant. In total it changes. As against this, the fixed cost is constant irrespective of level of activity. So even if you have zero level of activity, that amount of fixed cost you will have to incur. Hence, selling price per unit is constant. Variable cost per unit is constant. If you make a difference of the two, this is technically called as contribution. This will be constant per unit. Hence, while deciding your selling price, I am mainly talking for small and medium units, where, well, you have some chance of deciding the price, some very little chance. This is contribution. And this contribution per unit will remain constant. From this, we have to recover the fixed cost, and then the balance can be the profit. Instead of deducting the total cost from the total sales revenue, first step would be to deduct the variable cost only from the sales revenue. So sales revenue minus variable cost, you may take it per unit or you may take it total, doesn't matter, because that changes according to the volume. So per unit and total will not make much difference. You can find out this contribution, and once you get this contribution, after deducting the fixed cost, you get profit. This is the basic structure that one should be very clear before you go to leverage. Now this fixed cost, for example, if I say here that my selling price is 500, my variable cost is say 400, therefore my contribution is 100. And let's further assume that my fixed cost is 10,000. Very simple practical problem for us to understand. When I sell a product for 500, I can earn a contribution of 100. I have yet to recover fixed cost of 10,000 to earn profit. Before that, I cannot earn profit. I cannot name this as profit. This is just a contribution. This is just a recovery of one of the costs, which is predictable, which is directly related to my selling of units. Now I have to recover 10,000 out of what? Out of this contribution that I get. So if I want to know in advance how many units should I sell so that I will not suffer losses, that is break-even point, nothing else. So by selling one unit, I get 100 rupees as recovery of fixed cost. I have to recover in all 10,000 rupees. Hence, 10,000 by 100 will give me what is called as minimum level of sales I must achieve. And this minimum level of sales naturally is 100 units. This is 10,000 by 100. This is break-even point. And now we are coming to leverage effect. I hope this is just a revision of what you know. Nothing new in that. Now I have to decide how much should I borrow. Should I borrow resources? Because those resources are giving me this level of fixed cost. And my aim is to reach break-even point as early as possible with minimum level of activity. So this is constant. And I want to reach the level of break-even point at a lower level of activity. Hence, my first goal, therefore, should be to keep this as low as possible so that I can, with 100 rupees contribution per unit, reach that level of break-even faster. Is that okay? So keeping fixed cost low, fixed cost of resources low. I have not yet come to funds. I am just talking of resources. Keeping fixed cost of resources low should be my first aim. With that, then I'll think of multiplying this profit. Because once I reach break-even, thereafter whatever contribution I earn, well, is my profit. Because nothing more than that is to be recovered. I'll be getting contribution of 100 even after selling 100 units. And that 100 rupees contribution per unit, nothing is to be allocated for fixed cost. The whole amount will be for profit only. Hence, the first aim is to reduce the fixed cost. And for reducing the fixed cost, well, I must keep my borrowed resources as low as possible. And when I have less borrowed resources, I lose the leverage effect. This is number one. Now coming to funds. I will need funds when I say that I should not borrow resources. I will need funds to own them. And for owning these resources, well, I will need funds. Again, I have a choice whether to own the funds or whether to borrow the funds. And I often say that if you ask this question to your grandparents, should I borrow or not? Well, your faces tell me their answer will be, go slow, don't borrow. And if you ask a very young, energetic, enthusiastic entrepreneur who has done MBA or finance degrees, what they will recommend? Don't put a single farthing out of your pocket. Inflate your project report so that you need not contribute your margin money also. That may be the advice. So advice is at two ends. What is the correct way? Should we borrow more or should we own more funds? Again, the answer will lie in this fixed cost of funds. And fixed cost of funds, well, I'm sure by this time, fixed cost of resources is one thing, fixed cost of funds is another thing. Fixed cost of funds is nothing but interest. If I keep my interest high, though it is high, it is constant. At all levels of activities, well, the interest that I am supposed to pay on borrowed funds will remain constant. So once I recover this, as I said, once I recover this fixed cost, rest is profit. Similarly, once I recover the interest, the balance is my profit. So I will have to recover this interest out of this profit. I can call this profit as operating profit. Profit can also be broken down into different terms, different heads. This is operating profit. And operating profit can also be explained as EBIT. Earnings before interest and tax. From that, I have to pay this interest. And then balance, I can call it as EBT, earnings before tax. And from which, well, tax will go and the balance will be my profit as the owner. This is the structure now. If I put this structure in the form of a table, it could be like this. Selling price minus variable cost will give me what is called as contribution. From this, if I deduct the fixed cost, well, I will get what is called as operating profit or EBIT. From this, if I pay interest, the balance is EBT. A very simple statement. And we have to concentrate now on these two factors. This is factor number one, and this is factor number two. These two factors will play a role in multiplying effect. To repeat once again, operating leverage is borrowing resources for multiplying the returns in the form of operating profit. And financial leverage is borrowing funds to multiply operating profits to the owners. This is in short the meaning of it. Ability to multiply returns is the basic feature of leverage. If we multiply the returns by borrowing resources, it is operating. Multiply the returns by borrowing funds, it is financial. That's all. With this theoretical background now, I think let us go to one simple case where I hope you will be able to participate. I have not made any PowerPoint presentation because I want you also to participate and work. Some sheets are given to you, some pad is with you. If possible, you can also start working with me. Let us see now. Let us assume that a company has total sales, let us say, of 50 lakhs. Its variable cost is, let us say, 30 lakhs. Its fixed cost, let us say, is 10 lakhs. Thus, the total cost is 40 lakhs. And hence the profit is 10 lakhs. When I say profit, I repeat, it is nothing but operating profit. I have not taken into consideration taxes and interest. This is the structure of one company. The structure of another company, same, sales 50 lakhs, variable cost is 10 lakhs, fixed cost is 30 lakhs, total cost is 40 lakhs, and the profit is also 10 lakhs. So final results of P&L account same. Sales same, total cost same, profit same. Which is better, this or that? Yeah, there could be only two answers. And we are in democracy. But this is science of finance. And in science, no democracy works. Let us see what is the basic of it. That all will depend upon your future. Whether this 50 lakhs will go up, will remain stagnant, will fall. That will decide the choice of this, variable and fixed. As I said, if you have more fixed cost, like this company or this choice, this need not be two different companies. It may be for you to make a selection either of this or that. If you select this 30 lakhs fixed cost, it goes without saying, as we have already seen, when your fixed cost is more, you need to have more level of activity for break-even point. So your break-even point will be higher here. Your break-even point will be low here. We can just work it out. Sales minus variable cost. Here the contribution is 20. And here the contribution is 40. And out of this, you have to recover this cost. Out of this, you have to recover the fixed cost. So if your sales are going to fall in days to come, this cost will remain constant. Here, this cost will remain constant. And hence, you will have to sell more units to recover this cost. Hence, it is better if you see few products, like for example, all of you may be recollecting, when electronic wristwatches came in the market. A simple example. What was the cost of it, selling price of it? And now what is the selling price of it? The price has fallen down, and you cannot say then that my selling price will remain constant and therefore sales volume will remain constant. Volume will come down, production level may be the same, but sales volume will come down. In that case, your variable cost will be high and the margin will shrink, contribution will shrink. Fixed cost will remain constant, and it will be difficult for you to recover the total cost with that level of activity. So the first thing that one will have to do is to keep this fixed cost low. And as I said, keeping this fixed cost low means owning the resources, in short. So if at all some conclusion is to be drawn, well, it is good that we have borrowed resources because we get ability to multiply. How much you can multiply, that can also be worked out. You can know this in advance, how much you can multiply. For example, let me take this first option. Here your contribution is 20, right? You can work out this as a percentage or share of sales. it will be like 20 by 50. Okay? 30 is deducted from 50. 20 is my contribution, 50 is my sales. Therefore, 2 by 5 or 40% is my contribution. Suppose sales fall or increase, how much will be the increase in this, or how much will be the increase in my contribution? That I can know this in advance, simply by a mathematical calculation, which is technically called as operating leverage. This operating leverage, therefore, is nothing but, you see, we have taken 3 or 4 things. Sales minus variable cost is contribution, and contribution minus fixed cost is the operating profit. So if we compare 2 things, contribution by operating profit, you can get operating leverage. That's all. How many times I can multiply the returns can be worked out by this. In this case now, see, your contribution is 20 and your operating profit is 10. Therefore, your operating leverage works out to 2. Simple. It indicates that if my sales go up by 10% with this cost structure, I'll be able to multiply 2 times. If my sales fall by 100% or say 50%, this operating profit will fall 2 times. You can check it. Very well, we can check this. Suppose my sales fall 10%. My sales will become 45. My variable cost, which is at present 60% of this being variable, that will remain constant as percentage of sales. I am taking this not in the reduction in selling price, but reduction in volume, quantity of sales. So this will be again less by 10%, and hence it will be 27. Fine. Therefore, my contribution will be 18. Okay? From this, I have to deduct my fixed cost. That being fixed in nature will remain constant, though my volume of production has gone down. And hence it is 10, and my operating profit would be 8. Again, a very primary tally. My sales have fallen by 10%, but my operating profit has fallen by 20%, not by 10%. For the simple reason that fixed cost is constant. Now this operating profit 8, can I know this in advance? Surely, because we have worked out the operating leverage as 2. Operating leverage is 2, it means any change in volume of sales will be reflected in change in operating profit 2 times. And that's it. This decrease in sales is 10% and decrease in profit is 20% because my operating leverage is 2. Knowing this in advance, how much will be the fall in my profit? Simple. Many times a competitor enters the market and we know that some share he is going to take out of my business. To what extent? Will it be profitable for me to continue in the business? I have to take the decision in advance. To what extent my operating profit will come down? Now, therefore, if I don't want this to be more, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, what I will have to do? I will have to keep this fixed cost as low as possible. Here it was 10, therefore the effect is 2. If you work it out here, because here the borrowed funds are more, borrowed resources are more, therefore fixed cost is more, you will find here that your contribution is 40 If there is 10% reduction, again it will be 45. This 10 will remain constant, and hence my contribution will be 35. Am I right? Yes, 10 is variable cost, therefore it will be 8. Oh yes, it will be 9. So 45 minus 9, it will be 36. 36 is going to be my contribution. And from this contribution, I have to deduct 30, and hence my profit will be only 6. See, it came down from 10 to 6. Here it came down from 10 to 8. Why? Only because of the fact that my borrowed resources are more or less. Hence, while taking the decision regarding borrowed resources, well, you have the ability to multiply. So if your sales go up by 10%, effect here will be only 2 times. Effect here will be 4 times. So ability to multiply will be more when borrowed resources are there. At the same time, ability of reduction in your profit will also be in the same proportion. So the simple decision will be, keep your break-even point as low as possible so that at least you avoid losses. You may not be able to multiply the returns, but at least you can avoid the losses. Hence I said, if you enter into an agreement with a company for 10 years regarding quantity, then well, there is no harm in taking more risk because there is no chances of reduction in your sales in that case. This is number 1, which I call it as operating leverage. Now coming to financial leverage. Once this is assured, then comes how to fund this. Let us see that also. Third karu? Let us start with this. Sales 50, variable cost 10, contribution 40, fixed cost deducted as it was 10 here, no 30 here, and hence contribution is 10. Now the question is of interest. This is one decision. Second decision was like this, 50, variable cost 40, so it was 10, 30 I think. It was 30, so contribution was 20, fixed cost was 10, and therefore profit was 10. This is operating profit. So operating profit was 10. In both the cases, it is same. Now comes the question of interest. I repeat once again, interest is borrowed funds. If you have more borrowed funds, more interest. If you have less borrowed funds, less interest. Suppose this interest now portion here is 2 lakhs and here it is 8 lakhs. Here your operating profit minus interest will give you 8 lakhs as PBT. Here your PBT will be 2. This thing remaining constant, we have to make a choice now here. You can work out the operating leverage also. Similarly, you can work out financial leverage too. Here in this case, this operating profit by PBT will give you that figure, that multiplying factor, which is called as financial leverage. So in short, financial leverage is nothing but operating profit upon PBT. In this case, it will be 10 by 8. And in this case, it will be 10 by 2. So here it will be 5 times. And here it will be, say, 1.25 times. Is that okay? What I did is, this by this. This figure changes because of interest. And hence it is 1.25 here, 10 by 2, it comes to 5. More ability to multiply the returns is here, when your borrowings are more. And here it is less, because here borrowings are comparatively less. So now the question again, decision making. Should we borrow more, or should we own our own resources more? And I think that multiplying effect is explained earlier when 10% rise in the sales is there. Similarly, you can see here, if your operating profits go up by 10%, 10% rise in operating profit, that means here the operating profit will be 11. Here also the operating profit will be 11. See, your interest will be same, and hence your profit before interest and tax will be 9. In this case, it will be 8 interest, and therefore 3 will be the profit before tax. Now you can get this effect. From 8, it has gone up to 9. And from 2, it has gone up, from 5, from 2, it has gone up to 5. You can make use of that financial leverage factor and can find it out in advance. And what will be the total then? The total will be this contribution by this PBT will give you combined leverage. Combined leverage. If my sales go up by 10%, how much my profit will go up, and vice versa. So that is called as combined leverage. It is nothing but contribution by PBT. This is in short the leverage. I think whatever time has been given to me, it seems to be over. But we have some time for question answer. I have just tried to explain you the theory. Ajun 10 minutes. Either it is a bonus to me, or I don't know whether the schedule, but fine. If I have 10 minutes more, it is good. Good for me, I don't know whether it is good for you or not, but it's good for me that I can stand before you for 10 more minutes. Fine. So normally, the decision, of course, one should have the theoretical background for taking the decision. But the decision will be taken according to the changes in the business that you foresee. And that decision will be better, which is easy to modify. Owning the resources. Well, once you own the resources, it becomes very difficult when your business volume falls to make use of those resources. Then those resources will become idle. So you will have to consider 4 or 5 next years at least while taking this decision, number one. When you borrow also, and that is in the form of term loan, then naturally it is for a long period of time, and you have to repay it in parts over a period of time. If it's a limited company, you go in for market for debentures issue. You borrow the funds, and you commit to repay that, say for example, after 7 years. 7 years, those funds are going to be with you as borrowed funds, the cost of which interest is fixed for you, irrespective of your volume of activity. And hence, unless you foresee what is going to happen in few next years, well, taking the decision will be very difficult. So my request to all of you would be, though this multiplying factor seems to be very attractive, my sales go up by 10%, and my profits go up by 8%, as we have seen. 2 times operating and 4 times, say, finance. So in all, it will go up by, say, 8%, for example. So one may be tempted to go for borrowed resources as well as borrowed funds. In that case, I said, one will have to ensure first that I reach the break-even point, and then start thinking of its multiplication. Don't start thinking of multiplication right from the beginning. Multiplication factor is good to see, but very difficult to maintain. And hence, ensure your break-even level first, and then think of multiplication. Hence, the simple advice would be, keep your fixed cost low. You may take a chance, you may take the risk of borrowing the funds. Contribution of borrowed funds may be more, and interest portion may be more, because your contribution is ensured. Your recovery of variable cost is ensured. Your per product sold gives you some surplus. And from that surplus, you can recover the fixed cost, and whatever balance remains after paying interest, well, you can multiply the returns to the owners. This is, in short, should be the strategy. You can work out n number of problems on this. Taking any figures, the structure is same. And on the basis of that, well, one can very easily get oneself revised all the times regarding our own business. Decision taken once may not be, the decision for all the times to come. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be taking question and answers. So because this seems to be a bit theoretical exercise for all of us, probably the questions which we collected are not on the topic exactly, because we will have to go back and try out certain figures at our end and work out the operating leverage and financial leverage, and then probably we may have some questions, and then we will come back to you. But right now the questions are, generic, based on financial decisions or investment decisions. So can we take those? The first question is, some of the customers ask discounts for quicker payments, and those discounts are normally more than the bank interest rate. So how do we make a proper decision in that? Whether we should accept that early payment discount, or we should wait for the payment term to complete?
I will draw your attention to basics again. We started with sales, deducted from that variable cost, and then worked out contribution. Fine? If my selling price is 100, and my variable cost, say, is 80, my contribution is 20. This 100 rupees selling price is without any discount. Once I start giving the discount, my contribution figure will change. And my all working based on that contribution of 20 rupees per unit will also not work. So giving the discount or not giving the discount will depend upon your level of contribution. And to what extent, for how many customers, for what quantum of sales, this discount is required to be given. Again, remember two different things. Interest is the second aspect, and sales and contribution is the first aspect. So my suggestion would be, don't consider interest, don't compare interest with discount. That would be my suggestion. Because unless you ensure profit, well, interest portion cannot be paid. And ensuring the profit means protecting your contribution. By giving discount, you are reducing your contribution, and hence you cannot just compare it with interest. It is not only interest directly compared with discount. You will have to compare it with the contribution, reduction in the contribution, and then take it. For example, if you have 10% operating margin, that is contribution. Suppose 100 rupees selling price, 90 rupees variable cost. 10 rupees is your contribution. Your interest rate may be 15%, doesn't matter. Because that interest is charged throughout the year. So 15% for the whole year. It works out to say 1.25% per month. And if you are giving the discount of 10% or 5% to your customer, then compare that discount, which you can convert it into per month like that, which is very difficult. So my suggestion would be, don't consider discount compare discount plainly with interest. What effect it will have on your contribution, number one, and number two, what effect it will have on the market. If you give discount to a customer, there are chances that other customers may also start asking for that discount. So that will reduce contribution of other sales too. And which is going to, that contribution is going to decide your break-even level. But if your contribution falls, your break-even point will go up.
Sir, probably this discount which this question is asking for is the selling price is already decided. Now, instead of using the bank cash credit limit, should we accept the early payment discount term from the customer? That's the question.
Yeah. You have repeated the question. I will repeat my answer. Because the answer is same and that is universal.
Okay.
Giving discount means reduction in the selling price, unless it is one-time discount. Unless it is one-time discount. And unless it is a discount to a particular customer. Both the things may not remain constant. Once you give a discount to a customer, he will start asking for that discount repeatedly, or you may feel like giving discount to him repeatedly for getting early money. Indirectly, you are helping others to reduce your price. And if your price comes down, your contribution will come down. If contribution comes down, needless to say, you will have to sell more commodities, quantity, for reaching break-even point. So it will affect your break-even point adversely. Take care of that. And if you feel this is exclusive discount for one customer for a particular order, then only you will be able to make a comparison.
हा थोड्या वेगळ्या विषयावरचा प्रश्न आहे. नॉर्मली तुम्ही बजेटवरती बराच अभ्यास करता किंवा तुम्ही बजेटवरची ऑथॉरिटी आहात, तर जनरली बजेटमध्ये वेगवेगळ्या ॲक्टिव्हिटीजसाठी ॲलोकेशन केलं जातं गव्हर्नमेंटकडनं, इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरसाठी किंवा इरिगेशनसाठी वगैरे. तर हा डाटा ॲज अ SME आम्ही स्ट्रॅटेजिक इनपुट म्हणून कसा वापरावा?
इट्स अ व्हेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. पहिले डाटा कुठे अवेलेबल असतो हे माहिती आहे सगळ्यांना. If you want to make use of that data, you should know where that data is. That data is available now readily to everybody on the website. Website is indiabudgets.nic.in, where you can get all the data. indiabudget.nic.in. You can get the data from that. What that data will help you? That data will help you decide the priorities of the government, the preferences by the government. Mr. Trehan has already given you the areas from where probably he must have taken that from the budget itself, where the allocation has been made, what priorities the government has given. So we can also see this by comparing the allocation this year with the allocation of the last year. In that budget also there are three figures given for each allocation. Figure number 1 is budget for the current year. For example, 12-13 budgeted figures. Second is 12-13 revised estimates. And number 3 is 12-13 actuals. You get 3 figures. Allocation may be more in budget. What has happened about it in the revised estimates? Whether the government departments have spent on that or whether it is merely the allocation made. Second is revised. And third one is again actuals. These revised estimates are worked out on the basis of data with the government from April to December. Budget is presented in February. So for 9 months, this data is available. These are revised estimates. And actuals will come probably in June, when you can compare these three figures and decide whether the government is really serious about that aid or not.
फिक्स कॉस्ट लेवलकडे पाहताना फिक्स कॉस्ट कमी ठेवावी असं आपण आता बघितलं. तर फिक्स कॉस्ट कमी ठेवावी की ॲट व्हॉट पर्सेंटेज ऑफ टोटल कॅपॅसिटी इट विल बी रिकवर्ड याकडे जास्ती लक्ष द्यावा.
I have not said, if that message has gone, I am sorry that I am not then in a position to explain it in a good way. What I said is, keep fixed cost low, it means your break-even point will be low. And break-even point is always expressed in terms of percentage utilization of your capacity. I have not said keep fixed cost not 40 lakhs but 30 lakhs. In absolute terms, it has no meaning. At what level you can reach break-even point is more relevant in that case.
So earlier we reached the BEP is better.
Yeah,
Using the
surely. Provided, of course, as I said, if you have 10 years contract with Crompton, you are sure that your sales are going to be constant. Contract is with same quantity, contract is with same price, or with escalation clause in the contract, which you feel will take care of escalation in the raw material and labor prices, then your contribution will be same, and hence you can try even in that case for more fixed cost also, because that will be giving you multiple effect for operating profit too.
What should be the hurdle rate, acceptable rate of return for an Indian SME? Generally, आपण जे म्हणतो rate of return.
It will change according to the type of product and line of industry that you select. It cannot be universal, it cannot be a thumb rule. I remember one incident that I will just share with you. A chartered accountant, cost accountant, and company secretary, and a law graduate with all these qualifications was working in a very big industrial house, who happens to be my friend. And in his very initial period of career, he went to the chairman of that group and said that I belong to Nasik and I want that this group should come to Nasik. He had a plan, project report. He presented that project report to the chairman of that industrial house. Chairman, of course, appreciated and said, it is nice, you have come out with a product, you have come out with the finances, you have come out with the marketing and all. It's a nice project report. The ultimate question that he asked was, tell me how much you want me to invest. First question. That figure was ready with him. Then he said, within what time you will return my investment? You means this project will return my investment. That time he said some 6.5 years. The simple answer given by that fellow was, I can get my money doubled in national savings certificates in 6 years. Why should I take so much of risk and wait for 6.5 years to get my money back? Instead, I will put it here and get double that. It will depend on what type of product you have, what is the life of the product, what is the line that you are selecting, and all these factors will take care of it.
नाही म्हणजे हा प्रश्न आपण दुसऱ्या यांनी असा केला की बाकी फायनान्शियल ॲक्टिव्हिटीजच्या रिटर्न्सपेक्षा जास्ती चांगला रेट मिळवण्यासाठी काय ॲक्सेप्टेबल रेट SMEला असला पाहिजे. म्हणजे एवढं सगळं रिस्क घेऊन जेव्हा कोणी इन्व्हेस्ट करतो ओन फंड, तेव्हा व्हॉट शुड बी द acceptable rate of return?
Again, it is very difficult on my part to say anything as thumb rule. And I think the reason is very obvious. Those 200 plus units sitting here, can you say that the returns that you get are similar? Cannot be. Are they similar for years together? No. Over a period of time that will change. From business to business, product to product, business line to business line, that is going to change. Only thing now, if at all something is to be said, it should be more than interest prevailing in the market.
Great. Okay.
That's the only thing which I can tell you. Nothing more than that.
Yeah. What should be an ideal or recommended debt to equity ratio?
Again, that is not certain. Let me tell you the example as such. See, many times it is said, current ratio 2:1 is good. Acid test ratio 1:1 is good. In order to maintain short-term liquidity, these are the two indicators. Probably all of you know this. So your inventory plus your receivables on one hand, compared with your short-term liabilities like creditors, bills payable, overdraft, and all. 2:1. But you will find many units where there are no receivables at all, where there is no need of having inventory at all. I remembered when I bought my first scooter from Bajaj, I had to pay 500 rupees 10 years before. So my money was lying with Bajaj, that was a current liability for them. No stock, no receivables. Unless I pay, I won't be able to get my scooter. So no stock, finished goods. Raw material stock may be there, work in progress may be there, but no stock like this, no receivables like this. And if I insist that your current ratio should be 2:1, and then only you will be comfortable with liquidity, I think this is something wrong advice that I am giving. As against this, for some, this ratio may go to 4. If your manufacturing activity takes 6 months, for example, to produce that product, it depends on the product that you produce. So if it takes 6 months to produce a particular product, your WIP as well as your raw material stock as well as total stock may be more. So giving any thumb rule, I think is difficult.
Last question, I suppose. Which is a better way of assessment of project investment feasibility? When we think of a project investment, which is the better way? Is it NPV or IRR? I mean, net present value or internal rate of interest?
Again, the life of that project will decide this. Both are relevant. If my project is having a short life, probably IRR may be more important.
For a long-term project, it is...
Yeah, both are important. For long-term project, both are important.
Okay, I think
Thank
that's
you.
it. Thank you, sir.